Welcome back to the Law News Network, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber. Thanks for joining us. In anticipation of the Jessica Chambers case, which we will be covering at 2 p.m., we've been talking about it all day. We've been playing replays about Holly Bobo, which is a parallel case to this one. We talked with Dan Hockheiser earlier about that case, but we do have some special segments for you in the meantime as we wait for live coverage in Jessica Chambers. One of the biggest issues to hit the legal world, the film industry, the entertainment world, is Harvey Weinstein. I'm sure everybody's been hearing about this ravening case, this case that's just taken the nation by storm. This is the renowned film producer and studio executive who was fired by his very own company that he co-founded, the Weinstein Company. He co-chaired it with his brother Bob Weinstein. And this has all been in response to a New York Times article chronicling accusations that Mr. Weinstein had sexually assaulted employees and actresses. We had an interview with his former attorney, Lisa Bloom, who was representing him, and it was only about a day later that she resigned, and we had our very own editor-in-chief of LawNewz, Rachel Stockman, to talk about this. She spoke with Lisa Bloom. We're going to play you that interview in a little bit, but Rachel and I are here now to talk about this Harvey Weinstein case. So Rachel, great to see you as always.
Great to see you too, Jesse.
Great to see you. So let's talk about him getting fired. And this is Law News, so let's talk about a little bit of the legal perspective.
Sure.
Was this the only thing that the Weinstein Company had to do? They had to get rid of him from a legal standpoint?
Well, I think so. And what's really interesting, too, last night it was leaked out a memo that he sent out to some of his friends in Hollywood, basically begging them to come out in support of him prior to the board deciding to fire him. He sent an email saying, "This will stay private, it won't go public, but could you send a note to the board and tell them to keep me on?" And he said that we believe what the board is trying to do is illegal.
Oh.
So I don't know if you've seen that memo. It was leaked last night. So really interesting, and what actually Ron Blitzer and I were trying to explore this morning is what exactly could be illegal in the board making a decision to fire Harvey. Now, of course, we don't know the ins and outs of the contract, that he has the arrangement, all the board protocols. I mean, there's a whole set of rules and procedures that go along with it. So perhaps somewhere there's some kind of stipulation that the board has to go through a certain procedure before they can just fire Harvey Weinstein. After all, his namesake is on the firm's name. It is all about him. He founded it. So my guess is when his attorney set up the board, they put an awful lot of protections for him to ensure that he could keep his job.
Now let's imagine for the second that this is Harvey Weinstein, who's been if you believe whatever the accusations are, he's been acting like this for a while. You would have to imagine putting in a morals clause or something in that contract where even if something came out about him, he'd still be able to retain his job. Now we see a lot of times in people's and companies, there needs to be, you need a 2/3 vote, you need some sort of mechanism, a quorum, something in order to get him out, and maybe they didn't follow those procedures.
Well, and here's an interesting thing. So we, here at Law News, we also followed the Bill O'Reilly saga really closely, and one of the issues when the initial harassment claims came out about Bill O'Reilly was, well, these were claims from the past, and that Fox News knew about them prior to re-signing Bill O'Reilly. So they'd have some trouble firing him because, well, they knew about it when they signed on to continue. They knew about these settlements. Then what happened is more women came forward and it started unraveling for him, and so they really had no choice but to fire Fox. So it would be interesting to be kind of a fly in the wall in the boardroom. How much did they know about what Harvey was doing? How much did they know about these settlements? Some of them happened prior to him forming his own company when he was at Miramax. So, you know, again, though, if this was such a hidden secret in Hollywood, no doubt the all-male board of Harvey Weinstein's company knew something about this.
And it's a company. It needs to make business. Their films, I don't know what the impact this is going to have on their films, but I can tell you one thing. If they didn't take care of this as soon as possible, it would have definitely hurt their business moving forward. I'm curious, why did this happen now? Why did this New York Times story come out now? I mean, if this really was happening so much, he had settled with women, why did this all come out at this point in time?
So here's what's interesting. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. Sharon Waxman, she's the publisher, founder of a publication called The Wrap. She used to be a New York Times reporter, and she said back in, I believe, 2004, 2005, that she found out about all this Harvey Weinstein stuff. She had been working on an investigation. She'd been flying across the country to nail down the details. And she claims back then that the editors of the New York Times basically sidelined her story and squashed it. And she claims it was because of pressure from Harvey Weinstein himself, from actors like Matt Damon and others that called her and really put pressure on her. So my guess is that many journalists tried to break this, and then when it came down to it, they got a lot of pressure. Their editors got a lot of pressure to keep this story contained.
Let's not forget, this is one of the most powerful people in entertainment.
Yes.
All facets, not just film, TV, media in general. So if he makes a decision, he makes a call, you can either make or break your career. And it's interesting that we talk about this because this really is about sexual harassment, and it is about power dynamics, someone who has power and someone who is in a more vulnerable position. And it's eerie to think about that you're looking at one of the most powerful people in entertainment, and then you're hearing all these women who were in a position where they couldn't report on him and they couldn't say what was going on. And I'm curious now that these NDAs that they sign, these settlements, if truth comes out about these accusations and it becomes public record, do they have a right to say, okay, my NDA doesn't mean anything now? Can they come
it's
forward
really
and say,
interesting that you bring up the NDAs, because in a statement, the New York Times, because of course Harvey Weinstein threatened to sue the New York Times. He's hired Charles Harder, which we all know in the legal world. He's a huge defamation attorney based out in California. He's the one that represented Hulk Hogan and took down Gawker, forced them into bankruptcy. So he hired Charles Harder, threatening to sue the New York Times over the story, which of course is implies that he believes that there's false statements, right, in the story that are untruths. So in response, the New York Times PR department said, well, let the women out of their non-disclosure agreements and let them talk on the record, and we'll get to the truth of this. So far, Harvey hasn't taken them up on that. So that would be really interesting if he allowed that, because then we'd really be able to put some names to what happened.
I mean, stories have been coming out.
Oh, and even without that, stories have been coming out. Absolutely.
I can't speak on LawNewz. I can't even imagine they're true. I mean,
you can say it. We don't get regulated.
I'm telling you something. There was a young reporter from Long Island News. Lauren Sivan, I believe her name was. Oh my God, her name is.
I think she's now in California.
She's
right?
now in California.
Yes.
She was on Megyn Kelly's show talking about this accusation is so. I mean. It's unbelievable, and you hear about what she went through with Harvey Weinstein. To give our viewers who haven't heard this, I'll try to make it as PC as possible. Harvey Weinstein was out to dinner with her, with several friends. She said they had a great conversation. She didn't think it was any romantic gestures. At the end of the night, he says, I'll give you a tour of the restaurant, goes downstairs, tells the whole kitchen to move away, and then tries to kiss her. And when she backs away, she goes, whoa, I didn't know this was what this was about, and I'm seeing someone seriously. He says, just stand there and be quiet. And he exposes himself and starts to, in front of her.
Massage himself?
And pleasure himself in front of her. Now if this is one story, you can only imagine what's going on in this.
It's just crazy to me if that's what he did, that it went for this long without it coming out publicly.
I know. And I do want to talk about that lawsuit, the defamation suit. So at one end, Harvey Weinstein is saying, I admit to wrongdoing. At the same time, he's suing the New York Times for defamation, saying that they published lies that weren't corroborated. Now, let's not forget, he's a public figure. He's going to need, the standard to show for defamation is much stronger. He's going to need to show actual malice, that they deliberately reported false information, which is not an easy standard. We saw Sarah Palin tried to do something like that. It didn't work for her. So, and the other side of it is, so let's first tackle that, the idea of a successful defamation lawsuit when he's already admitted fault. What do you think about that?
I mean, there's no way he's either not going to file, or he's going to file just to make a PR stunt. Either way, the lawsuit's not going anywhere. And what's interesting, and you picked up on something too that I find really interesting, if you're admitting to some of the allegations, and you don't want to attack the victims as part of your strategy, then by filing a defamation lawsuit, you're doing just that, because you're claiming that something in that article is a lie, so one of those women lied about you, and you're harassing the victims. I mean, I just think you can't have it both ways. You either, it's not true or it is. You can't have it both ways.
And we're going to talk about that because you brought that topic up to Lisa Bloom, who was representing Harvey Weinstein. We're going to play her video, your amazing interview with her in a minute. But I do want to actually talk about this. If he files a lawsuit, there's discovery. That means they're going to delve into his life, delve into his communications. Does he really want that? Is he really going to have a lawsuit?
No way.
Right.
No way. I think it was a threat. I don't think he's going to actually file. This actually reminded me of Donald Trump. You'll recall last year, exactly to the day, Monday, the Access Hollywood tape came out, and that there was a spiral effect of women that came forward claiming that Trump sexually assaulted, harassed them. And guess what? He promised to sue every single one of those women. He also promised to sue the New York Times that did an expose involving 2 of the women, both of those lawsuits have not happened. And so I don't think the Harvey Weinstein lawsuit's going to happen. I think it's a way to save face in front of the public. I think it's a publicity stunt. And I think that Harvey knows, as well as attorneys, it would be stupid for him to file it.
I agree with you, and I would probably be surprised if he takes it even further. But, you know, Rachel, we were talking about, you had an amazing interview with Lisa Bloom, who was representing Harvey Weinstein, and she, I think it was a day later or so, she resigned, and her statement was, "I have resigned as an advisor to Harvey Weinstein. My understanding is that Mr. Weinstein and his board are moving toward an agreement." This is before he was eventually fired. I want to replay your interview with her. But before we do, final thoughts on her resigning right after your interview.
Well, that was certainly interesting. I think a lot of people called her out for some of the hypocrisy. Interestingly enough, too, she was getting pressure from inside the board. Apparently, they weren't happy with how she was representing Harvey Weinstein to the public. Another interesting thing came out that she actually, according to a report in the New York Times, she is the one that advised the board to release publicly photos of Harvey Weinstein and some of the victims being friendly together to kind of undermine the victim's story, which was really surprising to me, considering Bloom is the one who told me face to face in this room that she wouldn't be going after the victims. Now, she's since denied that she ever sent that email to the board. The New York Times said they had a copy of the email. Regardless, I think that her hypocrisy in representing Harvey Weinstein was pretty clear from all of this.
And I think you really pinpointed that in that interview, and I think it was a fascinating interview to watch, and we want our viewers to watch it now. Again, this is a very interesting case of Harvey Weinstein, who has been accused of various incidents of sexual harassment, and here you will watch right now from a few days ago Rachel Stockman's interview with Lisa Bloom before she resigned. You take a look and you decide.
LawNewz Network. I'm your host for a little bit this afternoon, also editor-in-chief of LawNewz.com. We are officially in verdict watch for the Frank Bybee attempted murder trial, a trial we've been following out of Florida. We'll have more coverage about that this afternoon, but now I want to turn to a special segment that we have for you this afternoon. It follows an explosive story that hit the New York Times yesterday afternoon regarding media mogul, studio executive Harvey Weinstein, who is accused of sexually harassing women over a 30-year time span. According to the Times' anonymous sources, he agreed to settle with at least 8 of these women. It's been a shocking story for many of us that have been following it, and even more shocking to me is the fact that Lisa Bloom, who is a feminist attorney who has represented for decades now women who have accused high-profile men of sexual harassment, she is the one representing Harvey Weinstein in all of this. And I'm pleased to say she's joining us here on set. Immediately after I found out you were representing Harvey, I sent you an email saying I was shocked by this. What's your reaction? I mean, there's been outrage that you're representing him.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of outrage. There are some people who have sort of scratched their head. I think when people have read my statement and seen the work that I'm doing, a lot of people have been very appreciative. My client Jill Harth, for example, who was the first Donald Trump accuser, said, you know, I wish that Donald Trump had done just what Harvey Weinstein has done, which is just apologize. That's all that Jill ever wanted, instead of calling her a liar. I do usually represent women on the other sides of cases like this, that's true. And I've often thought, gee, I wish I could just be in the room with the other side and just talk to that guy directly and tell him how to handle himself a little better. Well, this was an opportunity to do that. I know Harvey Weinstein because I have a book that he's making into a television series, and I'd heard about some of these rumors, and Harvey and I had some very frank conversations about it. And my suggestion to him was, you know, take the high road. You've made mistakes in your past. Frankly, we've all made mistakes. Some are worse than others. He denies a lot of these allegations, but he does admit to some kind of loose talk sometimes, some inappropriate words and language in the workplace, and to having a problem with anger. I'm like, you know what? Don't attack the women. Don't disrespect them. Don't hire investigators to dig up dirt on them. And you know, that's the old playbook. Let's not do that. Let's conduct yourself with some dignity now. And this was not a hard sell. Harvey's response was, yeah, let's do that, and that's what we're doing.
And Lisa, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the specific allegations as they relate to Harvey, but I want to ask you on a personal level, because you are a feminist attorney. You're a proud feminist. I follow you on Twitter. You go to all of the marches. You're always wearing pink. You've represented...
not wearing pink now.
Not today, but you've represented some of the victims, alleged victims of Bill O'Reilly. Many people have said you're instrumental in the reason he got fired from Fox News. We met the first time when you were representing Jill Harth, who's one of Donald Trump's alleged sexual harassment victims. A lot of people would say you are being a hypocrite by now changing sides. Your reaction?
I'm not changing sides. You know, I guess some people, and I question how much they do to move the ball forward for women's rights other than being a Twitter troll, but you know, there are many different ways to get to a goal. So I litigate cases, I write books, I speak out at conferences and marches, and here was an opportunity to actually be in the room with somebody accused of this stuff and change the pattern. Every other case that we have seen has been attack the women, disrespect them, you know, call them liars, ask their friends and family to come out and say negative things about them, stick up for yourself, you know. And I saw an opportunity to change that. So let me just finish and say, I want to be clear that Harvey does deny a lot of these allegations, but we have to be able to hold in our mind that he does, but he also admits that over many years, he also has done things wrong.
So what specifically does he deny?
He denies a lot of the allegations in the New York Times.
Which ones?
And I'm not going there, and I'll tell you why. Because then the next story is going to be, Lisa Bloom says this woman or that woman is lying. And we're not doing
isn't that important, though? I mean, if he's going to sue the New York Times, isn't it important for us to know what's a lie and what's not?
If he does do that, you will see that in the lawsuit, and that's being handled by a different lawyer, okay? Oh. But, you know, I'm trying to make a very clear statement here that, listen, you work in the law, you know as well as I do. In any case, when two people are asked to recall something from 25 years ago, they are going to recall it differently. So there's a difference of opinion about what happened. There's a significant difference on some of the facts. There are other witnesses who recall facts differently. But I don't want to get into that issue. I don't want to, we're not going to relitigate that. What we're going to do is go forward with some dignity and some compassion and some respect.
Okay, I got to stop you there, because I
know the press doesn't like dignity and compassion and respect.
No, I understand that, Lisa, but I do have a problem with your statement that you sent out yesterday, because I know you, and I've known you for the years and know how you react to situations when you're on the other side. And in your statement, you said that Harvey Weinstein, he is an old dinosaur learning new ways.
Keep reading. Keep reading. Oh, that's just the one sentence you didn't.
Well,
did you read the whole statement?
I read the whole statement, but this is the particular line I want to go at you about, because if Bill O'Reilly's attorney, when we were in the midst of that whole scandal, had said something like this, I have no doubt you go after.
Okay, show me where Bill O'Reilly said, I have caused pain and I sincerely apologize. Show me where Bill O'Reilly ever acknowledged any...
But how is it right to say they're an old dinosaur?
Are you going to let me speak? Okay.
Go ahead.
Show me where Bill O'Reilly apologized. Show me where Bill O'Reilly treated his accusers with respect, even when he disagreed with them. Show me where Bill O'Reilly brought in a feminist attorney who he authorized to go out and say, he is very sorry. He has done wrong. You don't like the old dinosaur line, which went on to say how embarrassed Harvey is, how apologetic he is, how pleased I am to work with him behind the scenes and have very blunt, open conversations with him about what sexual harassment is and how he needs to learn and grow. You don't like that one line, fine. But let's focus on the big picture here and how this is a novel approach, a very different approach.
But isn't that kind of, and I get it, it goes in the bigger statement of what you're saying, but the fact that you even said that, isn't that just kind of casting away like this is a generational problem?
No,
and
because you obviously
it's casting
didn't,
away the seriousness of what he did?
You're fixating on one sentence out of a page-long statement where there were profuse apologies. I'm sorry you didn't like me calling him an old dinosaur before I went on to talk about how he is trying very hard to evolve and change and conform his conduct to the way that we expect of people in 2017. That's what he's doing. You may not like it. You may not want to accept an apology. Other people may not want to accept his apologies. That's fine. But I think apologies are a good thing.
Okay, so Lisa, when you tweeted out the full statement, which is also available on our website, so people can read it. It's rather lengthy, so I'm not going to read the whole thing now.
It's one page.
You got some reaction on Twitter. One person said, "He's only 64. You are really doing a disservice to victims of sexual assault by minimizing his responsibility, stating he's an old dinosaur."
Okay, I don't believe he's been accused of sexual assault.
Okay,
I don't know how much time you want to spend on old dinosaur. I'm going to be an old dinosaur by the end of this interview if we continue focusing on that particular word choice. I think you should look at his words about, I have caused pain to people. Who else has said that in this kind of a situation? I am sorry, but don't judge me by my words. Judge me by my actions going forward. I have brought in Lisa Bloom to teach me how to be a better person. Who else has said that? Don't those words deserve some attention?
Would you, let me ask you this. If Bill O'Reilly's watching this whole saga go down, and he called you up, and he said, "Lisa, I need your tutoring," would you do it?
Maybe.
Even after all those things you said against him?
You know, I think some people want to change. Having spoken to Harvey Weinstein at great length over the period of a year and really getting to know him, I think he does very genuinely want to change. Will he change? Time will tell, as he says. If Bill O'Reilly said, "Lisa, I acknowledge that I did bad things. I acknowledge that I made mistakes, that I hurt people, that I used inappropriate language. Will you work with me to teach me how to be better going forward?" I might, if I thought that was genuine.
You might work with Bill O'Reilly?
Yeah. Yeah, if he wants to change. You know, you have to keep in mind what work with. You know, people are saying Lisa Bloom is defending Harvey Weinstein. You know, there's no lawsuit. I'm not representing him in any kind of litigation.
Well,
I'm not representing, if I may finish,
sure.
so I'm not cross-examining women. I am trying to teach him to be better. I have an opportunity to be on the other side, to work with somebody who wants to change. Now, some people are going to say, we're going to throw this whole thing out. We're not going to give him an opportunity to change. I've already made up my mind. Okay, fine. I can't reach those people. But other people have said to me, you know, wow, this is really a big deal.
Let's talk a little bit, and you mentioned it, how you initially met Harvey, and that was because he got involved with wanting to produce a mini-series for your book.
Well, it's not, I actually met him years ago, and I see him occasionally at events and things like that. So, but that's not how I initially met him. But we started
okay,
really,
that's how you kind of had more of a professional relationship.
Yes, we've been working, we were working together on the deal, and then working together on the project.
So, did this play in at all to your decision to represent him, the fact that he's helping you and bought the rights to your book?
No.
I mean, because a lot of people will say, okay, she's just seeing green here.
Okay, I love a lot of people will say. Are you saying that?
These are comments I've been getting
Okay.
from Twitter, Facebook.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah. So this
isn't stuff I'm just
social.
pulling
So
from
this is
thin
social
air.
media trolls. So I do make a living as an attorney. I get compensated in one way or another on most of my cases. I probably do more pro bono cases, which means for free, than most other attorneys. We do a very large number of pro bono cases. Other clients do compensate me. Is there something wrong with that?
No, I mean, I'm just asking if it played
in fact, I probably make a lot more money when I'm on the plaintiff side, because those are typically contingency cases, and we do very well in those cases. But you know, again, if people want to criticize that I make a living as an attorney,
well, I don't think that's no, Lisa. I don't.
you
I
see
don't think
green.
that's,
Well,
I
attorneys
don't think
generally
that's-
do get paid for our work.
Absolutely, and I don't think that's what I'm necessarily saying. But you've been admirably so and well respected by many in the women's rights movement as an attorney who has stood up and represented these women.
Yeah.
And so
Which
it's, I'm not minimizing
which
the
I
fact
still
that you
do
need to,
every day.
that you need to make money as an attorney. I'm just asking, you know, is there a point where if you're going to be an advocate for a certain side that perhaps you say, okay, I can't go there?
Well, do you ask this of other attorneys? You know, most attorneys take whatever case comes in the door, okay? I don't do that. I probably turn away 99% of the cases that people come to me. I turn away a lot of sexual harassment cases on the plaintiff side because I don't find them to be corroborated or credible. So all day long, I'm on my phone looking at potential cases going pass, 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 pass. And some of them are very heartbreaking stories, but I don't believe those are winnable cases, and so I don't take them. People like Harvey have reached out to me on the other side, and I've taken those cases over the years. I have a general practice law firm. We do business litigation, we do family law, we do a lot of cases the media is not interested in, like run-of-the-mill race discrimination cases, disability rights, police misconduct cases. We have a heartbreaking case on behalf of a 16-year-old boy who was shot and killed by the LAPD. We have 9 cases for sexual assault against Uber, trying to get Uber to change their policies. The media is not particularly interested in any of those stories. I'm representing Harvey Weinstein. I believe I'm doing something positive to change the way he responds to allegations, to do it with respect and compassion. If people don't like it, that's fine. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But at the end of the day, I think I'm doing something positive being on the inside, on the other side. Monday, I go back to a high-profile sexual harassment case on the plaintiff's side, which is the side I'm normally on.
So let me ask you then, just getting to, you're going to go in there and you're trying to help this company reform some of their policies. And this is something that many companies probably struggle with too. What are some of the main recommendations, I don't know if you can share with us, that you've told him this needs to change?
Well, that hasn't happened yet, so
Okay.
that's going forward, something that both Harvey and I would very much like to do. You know, let's do a full review. There are obviously some issues here that need to be addressed. You know, for example, do you have a good sexual harassment policy in place? Does everybody know if they have complaints of any kind, who they can go to, and that they feel comfortable going to report them? What is the mechanism? Do people feel comfortable talking to this person? Is it going to be in writing? Is it going to be verbal? Is there going to be a prompt, thorough investigation as the law requires? Or is there going to be fairness to all sides, right? I mean, that's what's required. Should we go back and look at what has been done and what mistakes were made? Yes. If any were made, I think we should do that. You know, that's all part of it. I think everybody in that workplace and in every workplace should feel that they are working in a workplace where their legal rights are protected.
And what's the plan going forward with Harvey? Are you planning to meet with some of his executives in his company in terms of that?
I would welcome that if they are willing to meet with me. I think at this point, Harvey is taking a break. I don't know how long that's going to be, so we're going to have to see.
And lastly, I got to ask you too, because a lot of people, like I mentioned in the women's rights movement, are also not only big admirers of you, but also your mother, Gloria Allred. Did you discuss with her, did you say, hey, Mom, I'm going to be representing Harvey, what do you think about this? Did she give you the okay, or did that not become a conversation?
Well, at 56, I no longer ask my mother's permission
But I'm
to make
curious how the
decisions about my
conversation went
law
down.
firm. How did the conversation go down? Well, she knew that I was very excited about a year ago that Harvey Weinstein and Jay-Z bought my book Suspicion Nation, and we're making it into a documentary film series about racial injustice in the criminal justice system, something that's very important to me. And I think I told her probably occasionally that I was in conversation with him, and I found him to be very genuine, very real, very honest, very open in kind of a surprising way. But beyond that, I really couldn't tell you.
Okay, so she didn't have any comment about you kind of representing him in terms of the allegations.
Well, I think she did make a comment yesterday to the press before she read my statement. And she said something like, I would represent women on the other side even if my own daughter was opposing counsel. That was surprising because I would certainly not represent any clients who were adverse to my lawyer mother or my lawyer daughter, because I put family before business. So, but everybody's going to make their own decision. Everybody's got their own opinion, and they're entitled to it.
So one of the great things about LawNewz is we have live interaction throughout this, and we've been getting a lot of comments because one of the things that you said in terms of what you're going to do for Harvey Weinstein is to tutor him in the ways of the world. Tutor him to be a better person, I guess?
I don't know if I said in the ways of the world.
Well, at least how you're supposed to conduct yourself in front of women and in a workplace. One person on our chat asked, does anyone else know of someone hiring an attorney to help them become a better person?
I don't know.
So this is a somewhat unusual arrangement.
Welcome back to LawNewz Network, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber. Thank you for joining us. You're watching Rachel Stockman's interview with attorney Lisa Bloom, who was representing Harvey Weinstein up until a few days ago. In fact, that interview, right after she resigned as his attorney. So Harvey Weinstein is a subject that we are covering today. It's one of our special segments as we await the Jessica Chambers live trial at 2 p.m. Eastern. That is the case of Quentin Tellis, who's been charged in the brutal killing of Jessica Chambers by burning her alive and leaving her to die. Again, we will be covering that at 2 p.m. Eastern, but in the meantime, we are having some special segments. And one